was a hive of activity at the Wyndham Estate Winery today in preparation for harvest time, but the team took time out to toast its latest success in the US market after their bin 999 Merlot collected a gold medal at the San Francisco Wine Awards.
Being recognised for this award kind of states to us that it is working and they're accepting our product well, plus that of other Australian wines.
The group are now hoping to build on the success of the 1999 vintage, aiming to double sales of their wine in the US over the next 12 months. And it seems there's cause for celebration in the tourism stakes as well. In the wake of September 11, tourism has been boosted, with Australians opting to take holidays locally, and even the bushfires have failed to slow things down.
There hasn't been real turn down in trade in the Hunter region, and particularly for us there hasn't been. If anything, there's been an upturn.
The first harvest gets underway in approximately 2 weeks. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
With fires at Yengo and Wollamai National Parks no longer a threat to homes, attention is now turning to who's responsible for so much devastation. Most believe arsonists started the Wollamai blaze, which at its peak crept close to homes near Bulga, Glenroy Estate and the village of Broke, at times forcing some evacuations. A fire which also threatened homes at Fullerton Cove, Karua and Swan Bay is also believed to be deliberately lit. 4 hunter detectives are now hunting down those arsonists.
There is many difficulties. A lot of fires start in remote areas. So we really need those sorts of areas, public assistance to find who are in the areas at the specific times, who would have a motive, as to say, to start a fire.
13 people suspected of committing arson have been arrested in the Hunter, all of them male juveniles. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000. Images of those who've been rescued or lost everything in the bushfires have touched us all, evoking an outpouring of empathy, many wanting to do something to ease the suffering. A large number of reputable charities are conducting fundraising appeals, but sadly some scam artists are also preying on people's generosity.
Yes, there has been an incident identified down in the south coast of the shopping centre.
Minister for Charities Richard Face fears it's just the beginning.
I picked at once the Knights and probably the various other major sporting events such as we'll have over Australia Day. You'll see some spiv running around with an open bucket collecting money for himself.
It's enough to alarm charity organisations.
We understand that there are lots of people in the community who want to do something. They take their own initiatives and go out commencing their own appeals basically. But the Salvation Army would encourage folk to support major organisations and make their donations to the banks.
Go to one of the reputable bushfire appeals, make certain you get a receipt, make certain the person's got some identification.
Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
2.5 years in the planning, the proposed Port Stephens motorplex off the Pacific Highway 10 kilometres north of Raymond Terrace was born from a natural marriage. The Newcastle MG Car Club was looking for a way to build a racetrack adjacent to its existing hill climb circuit. The Motorplex Australia Group land for a drag strip since Sydney's Eastern Creek ceased holding full competition drags.
We haven't had a standalone drag strip or competition drag racing in this state since '97 due to the lack of venues, and we hope to provide the next and the only standalone drag strip in the state.
The 3-kilometre racetrack, meanwhile, would provide a venue for local and national level events, as well as allowing the MG Car Club to expand its existing car control programs.
Advanced driver training, defensive driving and things like that, and this will be a big boom to road safety because let's face it, 2 or 3 lives saved through this complex will pay for it.
Developers hope the $5 million first stage, including both tracks and associated buildings, will be complete by Christmas and claim it'll create 80 jobs and inject millions into the local economy. The development application is now with Port Stephens Council. Colin Baldwin, NBN News.
On first impressions, Peter Daly's artwork seems colourful and bright, but look a little deeper and you'll see a very unique view of the Vietnam War.
Colour tends to be optimistic. It tends to be a little bit more open as opposed to dark and hidden, and I think it also gives people an opportunity to question things without being locked away before they get in there at what the image is about.
The Return to Base exhibition by the former Vietnam veteran features acrylic and print works full of symbolic images. This piece, for example, conveys numbers which typify the short life expectancy of a Vietnam vet. Peter says revisiting the experience through art has been therapeutic.
It's also filling in a void in Australia's art history. Because we must remember that this art hasn't been collected for 25 years. And it's only now, in the recent couple of years, that it's started to appear.
The 17-day exhibition opens at the Damien Minton Gallery on Sunday. Helen Kapalos, NBN News.
Locals and holidaymakers at Hawk's Nest Beach were shocked after hearing of the accident. 18-year-old Dominic Severino, holidaying from Sydney, had spent 7 hours yesterday digging a hole in the side of this dune. Police say the hole measured 2 metres across and 3 metres deep, and around 6 o'clock last night the sand wall collapsed, pinning him beneath tons of sand.
The young man's friends tried frantically to free him, but by the time they got him out of the sand with the help of emergency services, it was too late.
You just don't expect people to dig a hole that deep and then it cave in on them.
I've been playing in these dunes all my life and it's just a tragedy what's happened. Never expect something to happen here like that. It's a terrible thing.
Beachgoers looked on in disbelief today. Hawk's Nest is regarded as one of Port Stephens' safe family beaches. Dominic was buried so deeply, a backhoe was brought in and took 2 hours to dig his body out.
It's just someone doing something they shouldn't have been, I guess, and paid the price.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. The delays seemed endless for motorists stuck on both sides of Cooroowa. It took some drivers nearly an hour to travel between Cooroowa and Tea Gardens, a trip that normally takes 10 minutes. The problem exists on both sides of the town, where two lanes merge into one, causing endless frustration. How do you feel about the Karua traffic snarl?
It's a long way to Brisbane at this pace.
Well, mate, it's one of these things that happens, isn't it? Just got to put up with it.
Although the Karua bypass is to go ahead, final details of the route are yet to be ironed out, and it'll be several Christmas holidays before it's finished. It's still 2 weeks until the traditional end of school holidays rush, so scenes like this from past years are sure to be repeated. Police are urging motorists to travel home early to avoid the gridlock. When 100km/h southerly winds lashed the coast yesterday afternoon, whipping up 4 to 6 metre swells, the crew of the 10-metre sloop Paper Moon, on its way back from Lord Howe Island, had trouble reaching port.
Big, sharp seas that the boat tended to drop off. You'd go up over the top and then just slam down the other side.
With the boat's motor out of action, skipper Dennis Williams and companion Lani Tomaszewski feared they may come to grief at the heads and called for help. They were towed in late last night by the Coastal Patrol.
It's nice to know that there are people like the Coastal Patrol that can come out and give you a hand, and they do a terrific job. They're amazing volunteers.
It's difficult out there, you know. I think once again I'm taught to respect the sea and be very careful and be very thankful to be here.
Tomorrow they'll return to their home port of Sydney. Emergency crews arriving at Toronto Road at Ryhope were confronted with a shocking scene, a Commodore sedan upside down and burning, with the critically injured driver lying nearby. Amid trees broken by the impact, paramedics worked to save the man's life. There were tense moments for rescuers who feared that a baby may have been in the car.
There was a child seat found nearby. We conducted a search with the local SES, and at this stage there's no indications that a child was on board.
Passing motorists who raised the alarm looked on as the 23-year-old man was loaded aboard the Westpac rescue helicopter and flown to the John Hunter Hospital.
It's a road that invites speed to probably people who don't know the road very well, and people just don't take notice of the warnings of what speed can do.
Meantime, the Westpac crew also winched an injured scuba diver from rocks at Boat Harbour. The 26-year-old woman suffered a broken hip when she was washed onto the rocks.
Well. I'll see you, baby. Thank you very much. I love you, honey.
Wearing their only remaining clothes, Les Bowden and his wife Jennifer spent the day surveying the damage caused by last night's fire. An electrical fault in the ceiling of the Salt Ash house is thought to have sparked the outbreak that quickly took hold.
From when we thought there was fire and I had a look, 3 minutes totally in the roof cavity, absolutely total. The bloke's done well to save what they could save, but it's just a battle trying to put out the fire on the roof, that's all.
Rural fire service crews from Salt Ash, Medowie and Tanilba Bay battled the flames but couldn't prevent the roof from caving in.
They've done a great job. I mean, this was well alight and they were pretty quick to respond and they done their utmost here.
The house and its contents were all but destroyed except for some photos and personal items. The sad irony of the situation not lost on the group captain.
You know, it's a bit of a shock that your own place goes, yeah.
But despite his loss, the dedicated firey says he'll be ready when the next fire call comes in.
Training's on Thursday night and Saturdays, so we'll be at that, and if they get the pages go off to a fire, we'll be at the fire.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, they saved me pager from the fire, so that's the main thing, mate.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Taking a cool dip in summer is a favourite pastime for many Australians, but last year 73 people drowned in New South Wales. Tragically, it's the second biggest killer of children under 5.
It is shocking for parents. They feel blame, you know, they feel like they're the reason why it's happened. It's also very difficult for ambulance officers as well because it is preventable and a lot of ambos do have small children of their own.
So at 31 pools across the Hunter today, children began the Swim Safe program. Even though water safety is the main emphasis of the program, learning to swim and being confident in and around water is also very important.
In our lessons we ask the children to come one day and actually get in the water with clothes so they know what it feels like if they should fall in, what they should do.
It's not too late to enrol children in the program that could one day save theirs or someone else's life. Classes run until the 24th of January for preschoolers over 18 months of age and school-aged children. Parents are encouraged to sign their kids up and hopefully avert tragedy.
It's just so frustrating when ambulance officers attend to a child who has drowned when we do know that it is preventable. So hopefully from these sort of lessons, children and parents will be aware of what the problems are.
Cullen Robinson, NBN News. Cullen Robinson, NBN News, late edition.
Make no mistake, the NRL Premiers want the mantle of best club side in the world.
You know, we're going over to win it. We're not going over for a party, as some people might think.
It certainly won't be when they meet Bradford. The English champions are chock full of representative players and smashed Wigan in last year's grand final.
Now, they're big, strong, but very aggressive. They're just, really bully boys. They like to get up in your face and really, test you physically.
The captain concedes they're outsiders given their limited preparation and that his 19-man squad includes a number of fresh faces for the trip to a wintry old Dart.
Maybe the younger guys don't realise how big a task it's going to be. Going over there and the flight really knocks you about. We've only got 6 days to prepare, and this side we're playing will be one of the biggest sides you ever play there.
With both wing positions available, it seems Josh Smith will make his debut, while the other will fall to another up-and-comer. Daniel Abraham is leading the charge for a start in the back row, but the door is also open for Jared O'Doherty, who returns from major knee surgery, which ruled him out for most of last season.
The kids here who are coming in, maybe people might know much about them, but next 12, 18 months, they'll kick on.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Today may have been a day to please the sponsors, but it also allowed players to get used to the testing Belmont layout. For some, it was merely a matter of getting reacquainted with the course. Carly Butler hasn't missed a Ladies Amateur Championship held here, but as the country's number one, expectation is high.
I like pressure. I really thrive to be in the sort of situation at the end of the tournaments where I got the chance to win.
Victorian Vicky Eulin knows all about winning here, and the 25-year-old has returned to defend her title.
This is the first tournament of the year, so I mean we've been practising a lot and been playing in a couple of days, but nothing under pressure, 72 holes. So just get my feel back in.
That's what Rebecca Coakley has been doing with her short game. The number 3 ranked Aussie believes that could be the key over the 4-day tournament.
Yeah, short game, because there's a lot of par 5s that are pretty reachable and you're always around the green, so if you can sort of capitalise on them, it makes a huge difference.
The tournament starts Thursday. Light conditions on the lake this morning pushed the start time back until after lunch. It didn't bother the Turner boys, who lived up to their craft's name by being relentless during the national competition. With the event in the bag by today's final heat, they cruised around the waters off Wanji Point, leaving others to fight it out for minor placings. The female crew of Kylie Mara and Sarah Kerr from Coffs Harbour came home second overall by 1 point. To cycling, and former Newcastle-based rider Margaret Hemsley has continued a remarkable return from injury by winning the Australian Road Race Championship in Ballarat. Now signed to a professional German team, Hemsley broke her hip while riding in Spain just 6 months ago, but has come back to take the Australian crown. She'll now ride in 2 World Cup meets and the Tour de Snowy in March, with Commonwealth Games selection now thought to be a formality.
The Hunter is the new pet capital of New South Wales. In an amazing ratio, 1 in every 11 people in the region now owns a dog.
You not only get friendship and companionship from your animals, but it keeps you healthy.
As for proof the region is a poocher's paradise, you need look no further than the number of off-leash areas, more than 40 in Newcastle and Lake Macquarie, one of the highest levels in the state. Good news for cat lovers. Research suggests that more and more families are opting for feline friends for their easy care and loving nature, though the figures show man's best friend still earns his title. In Newcastle and the Lake, there are more than 5,000 cats on council's books, compared with 40,000 dogs. But thousands of illegal pets exist that haven't been microchipped and registered.
There's a big perception in the community that permanent identification or microchipping equals council registration, and this is not actually true.
Pet owners are now being placed on notice, with a crackdown on registration planned over the next couple of months. From September this year, all pets must have a lifetime registration or owners face a $110 on-the-spot fine. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
Robbie Middleby left the doctors feeling a little better than when he walked in this morning.
Although not good, results for an MRI scan on an ankle injury proved better than expected.
I've still torn a ligament, which is still bad enough, but it's not the ligament that the doctor thought it probably could have been, and if it was that ligament, it would have been a lot worse, so I'm pretty happy with the result.
With no word of when he'll return, Middleby's probably better off leaving that choice to the experts.
I'd probably say hopefully I'll be back by this Friday, but it's up to our physio and just see how things go. Probably don't want to come back too early and rush it, because it's probably one of those things that you got to look after and be 100% to come back.
Tomorrow night's game against the Northern Spirit is a chance for the side to regroup after last week's loss, and Middleby is at ease about the depth of the side holding the fort in his absence.
Whatever players get injured, we've got players to replace, so not just name one player, we've got probably 3 or 4 players that can come in and play my position, which is great.
The main game kick-off is at 7:30. Steve Mount, NBN News.
In a year when getting into university will be tougher than ever before, Newcastle University was today happy to defy the national trend. In fact, 2002 will mark a record year for the institution, offering almost 6,300 places to students in 106 different courses. The big difference, though, is that the uni has limited its entry almost exclusively to first-round offers, which generally means a higher cut-off mark to gain entry.
We want to try and offer as many places as we can within our budget to high quality students, particularly from this region. So we've gambled a little bit, I guess, but we're increasing our numbers to get those good quality students who've applied to come here.
It means nearly half of the students studying at Newcastle University this year will have scored a university admission index of 90 or more. And this year the demand was especially evident in the new degree on offer, the Bachelor of Physiotherapy. The course attracted almost 1,300 applicants, which were culled down to just over 40 successful students, all of which met the UAI cut-off mark of 99%. The university is hoping the physiotherapy course will eventually gain the prestige of the medical degree, which is considered one of Australia's best.
We've got some excellent staff, we've got an innovative program, we've made good contacts with local professionals, and we believe it'll be a program that'll be in high demand for years to come.
Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
It's claimed Council's local environment plan will disadvantage hundreds of residents who don't even know about it yet due to a lack of consultation. These Kurumbong residents say their properties and nearby lots will be rezoned intense agriculture, which would allow piggeries right next door to homes.
There will be a lot of smell, pollution. People won't want to buy your property because they don't want to live next to that sort of thing. So, of course, our land values are going to go down.
Concerns also over rural rezoning.
Which means if you want to graze one horse, one cow, you'll have to go to council, lodge a DA in there, pay money and hope that they will allow you to do it, which we feel is ludicrous because you are, after all, on rural property.
Developer and Resident Action Group leader Rob O'Brien claims council's population forecasts are completely wrong.
Council spent a lot of time using data which wasn't in due course up to date, and they didn't bother to check recent figures which were available from the Australian Bureau of Statistics.
Action Group demands include compensation for residents disadvantaged by rezoning, an assessment of submitted development applications under existing guidelines, and that the LEP be removed from exhibition for an independent review. Mayor John Kilpatrick says councillors will consider that, but the present LEP has been developed after 6 years of intensive community consultation.
A few people have been spreading a bit of mischief around and stirring a few people up. All I'm saying to people is go and have a look at the plan, see how your land is affected, write in and tell us if you believe it's affected, and we'll look at the problem that you say you have.
A Newcastle boy, Scott Thomas, was back home, but only in spirit. The Sydney-siders were on the back foot early as Newcastle raided their goal. Good luck and good management keeping United out. A booming kick from goalkeeper Daniel Beltrame only needed the smallest of finishes, but Joel Griffiths couldn't believe he missed with this. No one knows what his keeper was thinking minutes later. Beltrame's short kick-off pounced on by the Spirit and Adrian Savinsky poached a simple goal. It seemed it was going to be one of those nights. The second half started like the first finished. Newcastle denied again. It wasn't the only one, the Spirit netting a second, only to be called back for offside. It appeared it would be the home side's only good fortune for the night as frustrations grew in front of goal. But with 8 minutes left, substitute striker Daniel McBreen again bobbed up to save Newcastle. His strike earning a draw and staking further claims to regaining a starting spot. The stiff northeaster at Belmont has the ability to blow scores right out, and it brought some to their knees early. On a day more fit for the beach, Katie Urokowitz showed how to get out of the sand and stay near the flag. For Vicky Tutt, it was a monster putt that highlighted her round, but after picking up 2 strokes, she gave them both back 2 holes from home. Sarah Kemp started the day 2 off the lead but dropped to herself. A late fight back has her still in contention. A tough start to the 3rd round for both the leaders. Nikki Campbell dropped 4 strokes on the first 9 before finishing strongly, while Tamara Hyatt also didn't capitalise on her chances, slipping back to the field. Defending champion Vicky Euland is still within reach to set up an interesting final round.
Thousands of people gathered harbourside for a day in the sun and a taste of Newcastle's maritime history. The steam tug Waratah was once a Newcastle harbour pilot boat and was mistakenly fired on by a trigger-happy shore party at Port Stephens in World War II, injuring 2 crewmen. It faced a happier shore party today, sharing the water with modern-day tugs and the 19th century bark, the James Craig. There was an invasion of jet skis as an international field of competitors churned up the water, making life a little harder for the first Belmont Sea Scouts, who were using nothing but manpower. Earlier in the day, there was a departure with a difference from the Stockton Ferry Wharf, as hearty souls took part in the Cross the Harbour swim. Health Minister Craig Knowles unveiled his plan during a visit to Belmont Hospital today. Nurses willing to re-enter the New South Wales public health system will be given full pay while carrying out a refresher course before resuming work.
But we know that there are a large number of nurses out there who've chosen other careers or stopped their career for a while to have their families who want to come back in. The impediment has been the cost of retraining. Well, we're paying them now from day one.
1,700 nurses are needed across the state, but Hunter Health says the shortage locally is not as bad.
And we're usually actively recruiting to between 25 and 30 nursing positions at any one time. And that's out of a workforce of close on then about 4,000, so I wouldn't describe it as chronic.
Midwife Di Nally left nursing to become a flight attendant with Ansett. She's now back using her nursing skills.
Having to put yourself through university again, even for a short time, I mean, you've got to find that money, so yeah, I'm sure there'll be people that will appreciate it.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
A wicketkeeper for Wallsend, Central Coast base Jenny Wallace has won selection as a batter in the Australian under-23s with teammate Sarah Andrews. The pair will play 4 games against the New Zealand A's before taking on the top Kiwi team in February. Sydney golfer Sarah Kemp hopes her win in yesterday's Lake Macquarie's Ladies Amateur is just the start of a big season ahead. The 16-year-old relegated Nikki Campbell to her second successive runner-up placing by 1 stroke in terrible conditions at Belmont. Kemp now aims to pre-qualify for the coming Australian Open in Melbourne. Meanwhile, 13-year-old Brooke Northey won the 54-hole second division bowl on her home course in just her first tournament. Newcastle cricket captain Murray Christie ended his representative career on a disappointing note, with his side comfortably beaten by a touring English team. The London Cricket Club conference side cruised past Newcastle's total of 162 with 8 wickets in hand. And Avoca Beach has snuck into the lead of the Peter Surfbone series with 1 round remaining after a good win yesterday at Fingal Bay. Avoca's win puts them ahead of Caves Beach by just 1 point, with Redhead holding down third. And a number of records fell at the New South Wales Country Championships at Glendale's North Power Athletic Centre over the 2-day titles. Some of the elite competitors also used the meet as a warm-up to the coming National Grand Prix Series.
The huge plume of toxic smoke was visible several kilometres away, the culprit a blaze burning wildly inside this poor factory at Tomago, fuelled by hazardous chemicals and fibreglass. Firefighters donned protective breathing apparatus before tackling the blaze from all directions, among their concerns preventing the flames from igniting a neighbouring rubber tyre business. The cause of the fire is unknown, but workers recall hearing a loud explosion.
I was sitting at my desk upstairs in the office. The secretaries yelled out fire. I looked through the windows and there was a large fire already in the middle of the building.
No one was injured, although some firefighters were overcome by the heat.
We were quite concerned, hence we've had a fairly rapid response of quite a lot of resources to this fire, because we realised the potential of it when we received the first messages of what was involved.
Compass Pools has been operating in the region for 21 years. Only 4 of its 20 pool moulds were destroyed, but the building was entirely gutted. A meeting will be held later in the week to discuss the future for staff.
We've got another facility in Brisbane. We run 2 plants. Contingencies are in place for this sort of thing. So, unfortunately, there's a degree of stress in all this for the workforce and for some of the community. However, we've got provision to well recover from it.
Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
I'd rather sort of explain to them first and then sort of inform everybody else. Yeah.
Tea Gardens Hawks Nest, home to around 4,000 people most of the year, 30,000 in holiday periods, and soon a large supermarket. The once sleepy coastal town has been rapidly expanding for the past 7 years, and on Tuesday night the Great Lakes Shire Council approved its first retail shopping centre.
It's a buy-low supermarket of about 2,500 square metres with about 12 specialty shops and a large, bulky goods, large retail component as well.
Construction of the $8 million complex is expected to start in March, and local developers say it's just what the area desperately needs.
A lot of people are moving into coastal towns. It's placed a great strain on the infrastructure of these areas, and the supermarket's certainly going to solve a lot of those problems.
While developers are smiling, not everyone is happy with the news. Local businesses say having to compete with such a large chain will force many to close their doors.
The businesses here rely on the tourists through the summer to carry them through winter. If they haven't got that summer trade, if that's taken away from them, they won't survive the winters.
But it's hard to please everyone.
It's supply of goods and services. Therefore, I think the amount of jobs which will be created from that, it's a positive balance.
Even the fastest boats on the lake had trouble getting into top gear in this morning's light winds. Alan Murray's trimaran, Razor's Edge, and the big catamarans handled the conditions best as they set out on the 42-kilometre course. The forward hands aboard Michael Ball's Yes Dear took their time de-socking the giant spinnaker, while veteran Wanji sailor Laurie McIndoe had his sails trimmed beautifully. The Wanji Regatta is the only official Australia Day sailing event outside Sydney and carries a regal trophy.
The winner of each of the divisions gets presented to the Governor at the official ceremony in Sydney, so it's got a bit of prestige about it as well.
Meantime, there was plenty of action on Newcastle Harbour this afternoon as the Port Hunter Sailing Club staged a round of the state 16-foot skiff titles.
Police say 2 teenagers discovered the man's body near the banks of Riverside Park just after 5 p.m. yesterday. The 21-year-old victim had spent the afternoon drinking with friends at the Junction Inn Hotel across the road from the park.
After leaving the hotel, he went to the Riverside Park with his friends. They left him at the park sometime later in the evening, and that was the last he was seen alive.
It's suspected he drowned while taking a dip.
We're awaiting the results of a post-mortem examination.
Meantime, a 12-year-old boy dumped in Big Surf at 1 Mile Beach at Nelson Bay was this afternoon airlifted to John Hunter Hospital. The boy had suffered suspected neck and head injuries. It was the latest accident in an Australia Day weekend marred by tragedy. On Saturday alone, there were 4 serious incidents on the water in the Hunter and Central Coast. A 19-year-old Toronto youth killed after being struck by the propeller of a powerboat being driven by his father at Bolton Point, Lake Macquarie. The young victim had fallen off a surfboard being towed by the boat. At Spoon Rocks, a 55-year-old body surfer perished after being dumped in a dangerous shore break, while a 43-year-old surfer suffered spinal injuries after hitting his head at Nobbies. Incredibly, a man survived this horrific boat crash during racing on the Hawkesbury River on Saturday, his boat blowing apart. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
The litre car drivers pushed it to the limit in the Hunter Valley Gold Cup. Some pushed it too far. Wayne Blake was checked out by ambulance officers as his car was lifted off the track. He managed to rebuild it and race again later in the night. But no amount of panel beating could help Carl Geddes. It was an edge-of-the-seat finish for the litre car trophy, with Martin Laws trying desperately to get past Stephen Brown. Brown narrowly hung on to win by half a car length. In the street stocks, Trevor Blanche gave up weaving in and out of the pack and stuck to the rail, while 6-time Australian champion David Wilson from Lismore took out the 30-lap New South Wales Street Stock Championship. There was a large crowd of spectators on hand at the Belmont Golf Club to watch the leading group in today's final round, and the players were in blistering form. Royal Queensland amateur Andrew Buckle birdied the second and third holes before parring the fourth, helping him towards 18 under for the tournament, Buckle just missing this monster putt. Playing in the same group, Richard Moyer, also from Royal Queensland. Moyer found himself hitting from the rough on one side of the fairway to the rough on the other, but got back on track, putting his way to 12 under by the fourth. Fellow Queenslander John O'Sullivan was consistent throughout the championship, finishing in second place with a score of 270 for the tournament. But the day belonged to cool Chris Campbell from Moore Park, who was on target all day. Campbell shot a 66 today, leaving him with a 20 under par 268 to win the tournament. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's a routine Michael Lancey has been performing since he was a kid, preparing to glide over the waters of Belmont. And there's no one in Australia who does it better. The 20-year-old wrapped up his second consecutive national sailboarding title on the weekend on his home waters of Lake Macquarie. That win now puts him in line for a trip to Athens, where he'll compete in a pre-Olympic trial event.
We had the world titles there last year, and now it's just sort of getting closer and closer to Olympics. At the end of this year we have our Australian Olympic selections for the Olympics, and so everything's sort of getting closer to that major goal.
Michael finished 25th in those world titles, but has since taken the sport up full-time. For the next 3 months, he'll be training hard before leaving for Europe in April. Once there, the 1997 Junior World Champ will spend 5 months competing in a World Cup circuit that sees him take on the globe's top sailboarders.
I've just started to go full-time with the sailboarding. We're off to New Zealand this week, and then after that we're off to Europe for most of the year, which is a big lead up to the world titles at the end of the year and then into Olympic selections.
Colin Robinson, NBN News.
Launched today, the Centenary Newcastle show is being promoted as being bigger and better than ever. And there's to be major changes. A 20% lower admission price, more livestock and a new ticketing system for rides.
People can buy a ride all day ticket, which should be great. They won't be restricted on going on one single ride, and the whole of Sideshow Alley will be nice and clean and all open.
There'll also be no Sideshow Alley due to a dispute with the Showman's Guild, which has seen them set up a rival show in Lake Macquarie.
In previous years, the Showman's Guild have had control of the land, and we would never know from one show the next who was coming. And last year, not as many turned up as were meant to come, and so therefore our rent was down $15,000.
But that doesn't mean the stomach-churning rides and show bags won't be there. Organisers have instead hired a different promotions company to create a fairground atmosphere.
I hope the people of the Hunter Valley and Newcastle really get behind us. We haven't taken this decision lightly.
The show will run from the 1st to the 3rd of March. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News. A cheque worth $18,800 put smiles on the faces of the members of the Hunter Breast Cancer Foundation today. A donation from employees from Tomago Aluminium. And the support group has big plans for the money.
We're going to set up a Hunter Breast Cancer Foundation Trust, which will be there for people who have been directly or indirectly affected by breast cancer.
But aside from raising money, the organisation's volunteers also deal directly with sufferers.
Looking after them once they've gone through all their treatments and they're back home, picking their life up, and we can offer sort of support such as shopping, cooking, very basic things like that.
The foundation is also looking at expanding and setting up further subgroups, like one already in existence at Tomaree, to provide more grassroots support for breast cancer patients. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Last week proved frustrating for United, especially for the players who couldn't jump the fence and help turn around a 2-0 deficit to Parramatta.
It was a very bad game, especially to watch it from the grandstands, but looking at the pitch, we've sort of got a lot of ball plays in the team, and it was the sort of pitch that we couldn't really play on, so hopefully WIN Stadium will be a different story.
Robbie Middleby has spent the best part of a month on the sideline due to an ankle injury, but says it's business as usual tomorrow night.
I went to the physio all week, and it's coming on every day, it's getting better, so by tomorrow night it should be fine.
And playing against his former club, Middleby has unfinished business.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you know, I think the boys in the team there will get into me a little bit, and same with the crowd, but it's part of the parcel, and I'll go there, try to get 3 points for Newcastle.
The added return of Chris Zoricic means United will field a full-strength side, but the team's still cautious about tomorrow night's clash.
They're very tight all over the park, especially in defence with Savinsky and Stanton. So, you know, they'll be dangerous everywhere.
With United unable to improve on a draw for the last few weeks, Beltrame says the side's worked on the core of the problem, and it's just a matter of time before the results show.
Yeah, we've done a bit of finishing at training, but, you know, during the season a lot of chances haven't gone our way, so our luck's got to turn sooner or later, and I think one side's really going to cop a big hammering from us this season.
A warning Wollongong is not taking for granted.
It's always dangerous when a side of Newcastle's calibre is going through a bad trot, because it's only a matter of time before they turn it around.
Steve Mount, NBN News.
The New South Wales Cockatoos rugby squad didn't waste any time in preparing for their clash against the Waratahs. And for some, including coach Alan Barker, it was their first meeting as a team.
This is the first training run, the first time I've got to meet the players. But, I mean, I've been coaching first grade football for over 10 years, and I've coached a lot of these guys at club level, from the Newcastle area, so it doesn't faze me too much.
Taking on the Waratahs in a trial game is only the first of many hurdles the Cockatoos want to clear this year. There's also a match against Canada and the opportunity to defend the Australian Rugby Shield. But that's not the only goal for the new coach.
I'd just like to see if we've got people that are competitors, that they've got the skills necessary to, to go to the next level. I mean, my goal is to have somebody from this squad make the Waratahs by the end of the year.
There'll be plenty of incentive for players to perform on the weekend. Country selectors will be culling back the 40-man squad, and Australian selectors will also be on hand to check out the talent on offer. Colin Robinson, NBN News.